Hey everyone, and welcome to the Therapeutic Podcast. As the name suggests, this podcast is everything about therapy and mental health, hosted by two counseling psychologists who have a lot to say, and who would otherwise just sit beside a fireside and talk about it. So instead, here we are. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I know this episode is a little late and we should have released this on the 1st of Jan, but better late than never. So, in today's episode, we're going to be discussing New Year's resolutions. I think with every new year, there is a certain pressure that we put on ourselves कि this time I'm going to have this resolution. इस बार हम ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And by the end of Jan, we'd have done nothing and we've already discarded every resolution that we had written down. So, in today's episode, we will be discussing why we decide to make New Year's resolutions, why we fail to keep them, why we fail to go ahead with them, and maybe also share a few tips on how to continue with our New Year's resolutions, not just till Jan, but maybe till the end of the year as well. So,
Right.
I think the basic idea of making New Year's resolutions is I think we've discussed this also before that humans live on hope, right? So with New Year, we enter the New Year with a lot of hope, and that is the only reason why we even make these resolutions in hopes of doing better in life. Then again, life catches up, and then we decide कि नहीं करना है, we'll just go according to plan. So Meena, why don't you tell us why you think we make New Year's resolutions?
As arbitrary as the reason was of starting to make resolutions, a lot of it also just continued because of peer pressure, maybe you can call it that, or society pressure, or just New Year's pressure. Ki there is this really new thing happening. The whole year is ending. The earth has completed its one revolution, and it's an opening to a new beginning. And we feel like it's also a time for us to look back to the year that has passed. It because it's an ending. मतलब एक का end होना और किसी चीज की शुरुआत होना. So that junction where we are, that just feels like a very turning point for something. So we feel like कि हमें भी उस चीज में participate करना चाहिए. We should try to do something new or take charge of our lives that we may have not done our whole lives. So that excitement that attaches with the turning of a new leaf, that excites us more to make New Year's resolution and to try and do something new or take control of our lives back.
Yeah, exactly. I think also in a lot of sense, I think along with New Year's resolutions, there's also one more other thing that people do, which is buy planners, really fancy planners, and we decide that we're going to write everything in this, we're going to maintain them. And I can vouch for this personally. When I decided to get a planner in 2023, it just worked for the first week of Jan, and then later it was just there. So it doesn't happen sometimes. So I think also because we decide to plan our lives ahead, resolutions are also like that. We decide to take control of our life. We will do this and we will not do that, and then it doesn't end up happening, which maybe also disappoints us. And but one thing that I think we all need to be appreciative of is us as humans. We make jokes about how New Year's resolutions are just useless, and we all know we're going to discard them pretty soon. But just the fact that every year comes and we decide to make resolutions every year in hopes that we are going to go ahead with it, but it doesn't happen. And it's the same cycle continuing. So maybe today we'll also discuss how to break that cycle because there is too much hope. But how to put that hope into the right direction is what is important. What do you think?
Yeah. When you were saying, right, ki every year we do the same thing, and we know that a lot of memes are going to already appear, a lot of gym members are going to appear, and I have also heard this thing ki first January May the gym owners are going to be standing with thali in their hands, knowing that that's going to be the most earning day of their lives.
Yeah.
And yet at the end of the next year, there are a lot of people who still believe in New Year's resolutions and still do that. That's, I think, a very commendable comment on the hope we hold as humans, which
Yes.
is great. But as appreciating as that thought is to make New Year's resolution, it's also important to keep that hope. And as you said, we can also discuss how to break that cycle. What is interesting for me कि हम बनाते हैं New Year's resolution on the 1st of January or maybe 31st of December, but it is common to see that it breaks within the first month itself. That has to say something, right? Like the timeline that it
Yeah.
only stays for 3 to 4 weeks, that has to say something. Matlab, the disappointment of us not getting results is making us quit very early.
Also, I think because when we're making New Year's resolutions, it's important to understand why we've chosen a particular goal for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, even if we do look back and understand, ki, okay, I've chosen to probably eat healthy because in 2023, let's say, for example, I had health issues. It's also important to understand that were those health issues only because of your food habits, or were they because of your stress levels, or were they because of the environment that you're living in, right? So a
Hmm.
lot of the thinking should also go behind making a goal. So
Right.
that's why also we fail. Then we, let's say we made a goal of probably eating healthy food to lose weight or whatever it is. When we start doing that in all of Jan, we follow it, but we don't see a change. So then that's when the disappointment comes in, because maybe that's not the only factor and we didn't keep that in mind.
Hmm.
So
So what you're saying is that we should be keeping in mind of why we are setting a goal that we are trying to keep, and
yeah,
what is in it for you. So attaching a meaning to the goal. That, yes, that I think would work very well, because if you don't know, I mean, it happens a lot in our corporate. I mean, sometimes in the corporate jobs also, like you're given a task, but you don't exactly know that what is going to happen if you complete the task. Like, what's the
yeah.
contribution that you're giving would lead to. So, if that is very much clear in your minds, then I think taking a step daily to achieve that goal will not be that difficult.
And also I think a lot of this comes with maybe self-sabotage as well. We
Mm-hmm.
tend to, by self-sabotage, what I mean is that we also have a fear of failure. We
Hmm.
sometimes lack the patience, like we've discussed, and also just the fear that maybe this is not going to work out. What if I fail? So we decide, okay, it's okay, let me just eat that pani puri, or let me just eat that cake. It's
Yeah.
fine, nothing's going to happen. That is also something that we need to think about, because most of the times our New Year's resolutions don't work because we don't make them work. At least 70% of the times.
No, no, yeah, it definitely makes sense. At some level, we have made ourselves believe that maybe we don't deserve the things that we have kept as goals for us. And so, to maintain that belief, I mean, I know that self sabotage is a very controversial word, or maybe it sounds like
Yeah.
a negative word because it is self attacking. But it is true, and sometimes we do that. When we ourselves don't believe that we deserve something in our lives, we tend to try to make that belief come true by taking certain actions that will eventually not give you the thing that you want in your life. So, for example, if your belief is that you are not beautiful or you cannot look good, then probably if you have a goal that I'm going to be eating healthy, and if that's attached to you looking beautiful, then you might sabotage it. And because you also mentioned that we do have a fear of failure, so that also plays a big role. So we have a lot of reasons of why goals tend to fail. One of the other bigger reasons is the way we make our goals. Right? We make very big goals, like कि इस बार इतना lose करना है, or I want to earn this much of money, or I want to become this, I want to take this test, or whatever your goal is. It is a very simple yet a very big goal that you want to accomplish, but you have not actually broken it down into steps of what is it going to take, the smaller actions that need to be taken to achieve that big goal. That is
Yeah.
not defined, and sometimes that hinders us to actually implement the smaller steps in our daily lives. So when we don't know ki theek hai bhai kal utke, if you want to lose weight, or if you want to take a test, so what is it the next day when you wake up, what is your 2nd January को आप करने क्या वाले हो इसके लिए exactly. So उसको जितना आप define करोगे, the goals, as much as you will break it down, into simpler sentences. Let's say if you say that if you want to lose weight, so next day, maybe I will begin with a 15-minute of yoga or 15-minute of exercise or whatever form of exercise you're choosing to do. And yeah, and it would also help if you set aside a time in your day where you will actually sit for 15 minutes and exercise. You remember in our first jobs when we were together, we were given a set of instructions, right? How to literally break down our goals and come up with a single line for our clients. Like we used to
Yeah,
call
they're
them
called
smart.
smart goals, no?
Yeah,
Yeah.
smart goals.
I think that
Letter.
works in all kinds of situations. Smart goals, I don't think it's just limited to a corporate setup.
Hmm.
Like you said, if you're making even New Year's resolutions, you can use the SMART goals to make them so that you know what you want to achieve during this specific time period, or how you're going to decide that I have achieved this.
Yeah. And that probably is going to help you with your self sabotage behavior too.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yes, one of the great tips is to actually break down your goals and follow the smart,
SMART goals.
yeah, follow the smart goals, and that will definitely help you. And attaching meaning to it, that's another tip for you if you really want to follow through. I think consistency is what we're talking about here, right? Like how to maintain. If you want to maintain, there has to be some sort of consistency. And if you want consistency in your brain to understand how it really works, it also helps when you use the method of conditioning. For people who don't know what conditioning is, it's just a way for you to associate something with another thing. So when you see the first object, it reminds you of the second object. So for example, very simple example, when we go to McDonald's, when we see burger, sometimes, most of the times, at least for me, I like to attach it with fries. So my brain is sort of conditioned to see it that yes, burgers always go with fries. So I don't have to rethink, I just order it. And another example is movies. Whenever you go to movies, you also want to have popcorn. These are food examples. I mostly have food examples. And it's also strange that whenever I watch Friends or I watch any kind of sitcom, I associate it with the kind of food that they show in the sitcoms generally, right? Like Friends, they're always either eating pizza or drinking coffee. So whenever I see it, I always crave pizza and coffee. So my brain is conditioned that way. You can turn it into a positive thing by helping your brain to condition it with the habit that you are trying to maintain. So if you want to exercise daily, maybe keep your yoga mat or the dumbbells that you use or whichever thing that you use for your exercise in front of you and very approachable. And let's say if your goal is as small as coming back from your office and not trying to scroll through social media. And if you want to, let's say instead, read a book. So keep your phone in another room and book that you want to read as approachable, more approachable than your phone. So maybe beside your sofa, you want to keep the book and not the phone. So that way you can really condition your brain to really reach for the stuff that you need at that time to maintain that habit. Does that make sense?
It does. I think also, like you said, we need to be consistent. But for the consistency to come, it's also very important for us to understand that when we are making New Year resolutions, we are planning to change certain aspects of our life. Now,
Hmm.
change can be scary.
Hmm.
So, I think most of the times, also, why we don't go through with the goals is because we have to make changes, right? So, for us to even be consistent, for us to decide that we are going to leave our phone in another room and a book here, I know for a fact that a lot of people, even I thought of this, I will still go and pick my phone up,
That's
even if
true.
it's in another room, because you're so used to, right? So it's also about breaking habits.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that takes a certain kind of willpower also to go ahead with. So while, SMART goals come as a second, this is the second level. The
Yeah.
first level is to understand that change will happen, and for it to become a habit. So that will also take time. So we have to give ourselves a little time.
And I think for the willpower to be strong, you really have to evaluate if the present state that you are in, if that is more painful than the pain that you're going to get to accept the change, then definitely the willpower is going to be, on your side. So it's definitely going to
Exactly.
increase. Yeah.
We did tell our listeners about SMART goals, but we never expanded on what SMART actually stands for. So, SMART The S stands for specific, which means making a specific goal. M stands for measurable. So, like we said, you should be able to measure what difference, let's say, you're going to make in your life, or what difference the goal is going to make in your life. Achievable. The A stands for achievable, which means that you need to be able to achieve that goal. It's not like make a big goal and then you realize that this is something you're never going to achieve. So, make it something that you can achieve. So, that's why we say baby steps. Make something extremely small that you can achieve, and then we go up the ladder. R should be relevant. Like you said, it needs to be relevant to your time. You need to know that if this is something that you need right now in your life, if this is a change that is needed or why it's needed. And T is time bound. Again, like Meenal already mentioned, give yourself a little time. Maybe by the end of Jan or by the end of Feb, I'm going to finish this. Give yourself a timeline, and then you can slowly work through with your goals.
I think it really helps us to manage our expectation also. So
Yes.
that would really help you to not get disappointed by the third or fourth week of the start of the year, because you know that you are taking one step every day. So you will eventually see the results and the disappointment won't seep in that early. And hopefully it won't seep in at all until you reach your goal.
Yeah.
This another thing has also helped me really when I wanted to be very consistent in exercising daily. This was during COVID times. I used to follow a yoga channel, and that lady she used to almost daily say that, okay, now you're sitting on the yoga mat, so your 60% of the job is done. So half of all of your efforts only go in taking that one tiny step into bringing yourself to the place where the job has to begin. So the rest of the practice of yoga or exercise, it was used to be very easy. It was not a very big deal as it used to feel actually getting up from your bed and laying that yoga mat and standing or sitting on it. That first step is something that takes more effort than the whole process. And this is how procrastination is also defined, right? Like we make up these big goals and it feels very overwhelming because we don't know where to start, where to begin. And it just
Yeah.
sits on our head like a big burden and the goal that we actually want to achieve. It should be enjoyable for us we should be able to enjoy the process of reaching it. But because we are not able to break it down and we don't know where to start, because it is overwhelming, we procrastinate. And because we also have a fear of failure, so we don't really want to, feel the disappointment of failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what, when you were talking about yoga and the 60% work done, it actually reminded me of another tip that maybe we can follow, is that share your goals with somebody who probably might have the same goals or maybe interested, and that person can motivate you. Like, again, during COVID times, I had a friend we would get on a video call every day and we would do yoga together. And
Wow.
so after a point, it does get a little, you feel a little ashamed to constantly say no to somebody, right? Because that person is taking all the time and messaging you and asking you, okay, Acha, let's do it today. Are you ready? This, that. And there's only so many times I can say no before I say yes. So I think that also helps sometimes when you share your goals with somebody else and maybe discuss it with them and you decide, okay, we'll do this together. And it always helps. I think it works wonderfully because, and again, please find somebody who's going to motivate you, not somebody who's exactly like you, because then the both of you are going to be happy if one of you cancels the entire program. Don't do that. Find somebody a little more motivated than you, and maybe then your goals will be achieved beautifully and you'll be happy by the end of it.
And it's also fun, right? Doing it with someone else.
Yeah, great memories made, work's done, everything's done, so no harm.
And the feeling even after you've taken like just a very tiny step towards it, the feeling of seeing yourself walking towards the goal is something else. It's very good. It feels very
Yes.
nice.
I think throughout the entire thing, we did mention three major questions that we'll be answering. But throughout the entire podcast, we've discussed it all at length. We've discussed why, we make New Year's resolutions. And while doing that, we also discussed why we fail.
Hmm.
And while discussing why we fail, we also discussed, we gave you all various tips. I think one of the tips was to make smart goals. The others was to identify why we want to make a certain goal. The third was that, like Nina said, do something, just begin, take the first step, and then later everything will fall into place. You have to motivate yourself. I think from what the latest two examples what Meenal and I gave, what Meenal said was a little bit of intrinsic motivation where you have to motivate yourself from the inside. So once you get onto the mat, that means your job is done. And my example stated extrinsic motivation, which basically means you get somebody from outside to motivate you to do your job. So these are some things that we can try to do to achieve our goals. Again, it's not necessary to have New Year goals always. This is, I
Yeah.
think, just another made up thing that we do. You can always have goals according to your needs, and if you even need them, because in the beginning of Jan, we're all too happy and too excited to think about all things that can go wrong and then start with New Year's resolutions. But
Mm.
if you are somebody who gets disappointed easily for not going through with their goals, maybe we can try these little things.
Yeah. And you do not really have to wait for a certain day to arrive to make those goals, right? Like you can start anytime. Even now, I think in a way, this could be a good time to release our podcast because this is also the time when people tend to give up on their goals. So if you've already decided to give up, maybe the few tips that we have given would help you. If you still have your goals in mind and want to achieve them, do try breaking them down. Do try to take the first step and follow through because we know that you can definitely do that. And even if not, that's completely okay. You can definitely take your own time and do it
Yeah.
when you feel ready.
And also, we would love to hear what you guys have to say about New Year's resolutions and things not working out the way you had planned. So, if you still do not agree with what we've said and you think, oh, this is all just preaching and it doesn't happen, then please let us know if you feel that way as well. We would love to read what you think and maybe have discussions on it as well.
Zainab, did you make a New Year's resolution this year?
No, I'm one of those people who's given up. I do not wish to make New Year's resolutions at all. And also because I understand it's the New Year's, but it also means just the continuation of my life, no? From just the date changes, but otherwise everything else is the same. So
Ah,
as the
you're one of
year,
those. Hmm.
yeah. So as the year goes by, I'll probably find something that I want to do and I'll probably do it then. But otherwise, I do not wish to make goals and then not go through with them. What about you?
I can't say I made like New Year's resolution, but I did try a new thing on 1st January,
Mm-hmm.
which was make a vision board. This is a
Oh,
very
wow.
it was a very new territory for me to go into because I've not really tried the whole manifestation or even trying to do a vision board. But
Mm-hmm.
it did. I mean, until now, it has helped me a lot to actually see the visual version of your goals. That really helps. Whenever you look at those images, if you're trying to actually see how does that feel within you, how does that feel inside your body, it makes you feel really good, and that keeps me up and that motivates me intrinsically to keep going. So until now it has helped. I have not devoured myself into disappointment because I do feel like I'm
Well,
taking one step towards the goal every
that
day.
is because you've left it in front of your eyes, no? So every time you look at it, you will be motivated or just guilt tripped into doing what you have to do. It's either this or that. So I think vision boards is also a great way to
Yeah,
go about.
this was a very short and sweet way for us to let you know about our resolutions and our way of executing the goals that we make in our mind. I hope this was helpful, and we would really love to hear from you also if you've had any New Year's resolutions and maybe you've achieved a little bit of it by now, or if you have given up, do let us know that also. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.